Yo, what's good, everybody? Welcome back to another stream on Bleacher Report. We're testing out the multi-stream feature again. If you're in here from the YouTube chat, what's good? I'm going to be popping out chat to read all of these things. But as you can see from the title, we're here for the Oklahoma City Thunder versus the Indiana Pacers Game 6 preview. Sorry about that. As we talked about last stream, Game 5 was crazy. OKC really has cemented themselves as the team to beat in the NBA. And, you know, series by series, stretch by stretch, it's been an insane thing to see people just consistently improve in multiple different ways. Jalen Williams has to have some type of moment. And by moment, I mean he needs to be acknowledged for what he's done. For you to come out here and do what you did in Game 5, it really speaks to the overall settlement of how you've calmed down in the series and really figured out your process and things of that nature. So I want to give him a ton of credit because Jalen Williams effectively, not even a couple of weeks ago, wasn't Kevin Durant trades, right? People legitimately were trying to tell themselves Kevin Durant should be traded to Oklahoma City for Jalen Williams. And what he's done in these NBA finals, he's done a lot of things that, quite frankly, Kevin Durant at this age can't do. Not only has he been scoring the basketball, 40 points in a Game 5, by the way, but the defense and just the physicality of getting downhill. What really kept OKC alive in these games, especially in the crazy Game 4 that they came back and won, was Jalen Williams. We watched that game. We saw Jalen Williams consistently pressuring the rim when everyone else was very, very quiet. OKC wasn't getting much from their role players initially, and Jalen Williams just kept them afloat by diving to the basket, right? Getting out in transition, getting layups, just showing up in multiple different ways. And to me, when Jalen Williams plays like that, that's a different player. That is a different level and a higher ceiling for the Oklahoma City Thunder. And we're seeing this time and time again. When J-Dub has games like that, OKC is almost impossible to beat. Because you know Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is going to be lurking because he is consistent on a night-to-night basis for the most part. Like even in the same game where we saw him save them, Shai down the stretch scored almost all of OKC's clutch points. And for the Pacers, I'm looking at them in this series and I'm saying, damn, you have to be kicking yourself over Game 4. Because Game 5, if we're being honest, went the way I thought it would go. I think the Pacers are a phenomenal team, okay? Unlike a lot of people, I picked the Pacers in a lot of these series before they started. Series by series. In the first series, I said, okay, the Indiana Pacers are going to beat the Milwaukee Bucks. Let's go back to that, right? Because that was a hot take for a lot of people. A lot of people did not want to say or admit to the idea of the Indiana Pacers being a better team than the Milwaukee Bucks. And a lot of that came down to the star power. Like, oh my God, Giannis, he's going to average 35, 36. Yes, Giannis is a great talent. I kept saying this. Giannis is a great player. The team around him is not great. His coach is Doc Rivers, right? Like there's just a lot of things where I was watching it and I just wasn't high on what that could turn into. I wasn't. So for me, seeing them go out there, handle that, and make it into the second round versus the Cavs, I feel like the offensive brilliance of how the Pacers played, I just thought would be a rough matchup for the Cleveland Cavaliers, where they're constantly taxing you on defense and hunting your weaker links because of all the off-ball movement. And it proved to be too much, right? Then we transition again to the Knicks series, where a lot of people again picked against the Pacers, right? A lot of people came through again and said, you know what? We trust the New York Knicks to deliver more in this series than the Pacers because of their clutch heroics versus Boston, because of Jalen Brunson and his scoring. But yet in the series, we saw how hard it is to win with two defensive liabilities in your starting five and a lack of depth. That showed in that series. The problem, though, is when we get to OKC, OKC has better depth than all these teams. OKC has a far, and when I say far, I'm not dragging it, a far, like drastically better defense than a lot of these other teams. And more importantly, their identity has been more consistent all season long than any other team they play, period. So when I had to pick who was going to win the finals, I leaned OKC. Because not only did they have the better regular season, Not only do they have the best player in that series, arguably the best player in the world, but they also just had more in many different ways, and they had more talent. At some point, that has to mean something. And then the way they play basketball, again, they live off their defense. And if we're looking at all the games in this series, game one, OKC led the majority of the way. The Pacers clawed back in the game. They went off of a clutch game winner from Mr. Tyrese Halliburton. They advanced 1-0. Game two, like we've seen OKC do many times at home, they dominate the Pacers in game two. Blow them out by 1 billion points, or at least that's how it felt, right? So then we transition from that performance in game two to game three. Pacers lead in a lot of that game, and they grind that out in the fourth quarter. Shea had an off time. Many OKC performers in the second half did not play with the same intensity. They just didn't. And in game four, the Pacers are in a similar spot, but Jalen Williams keeps them alive where they can't ever blow them out by 20 points or 22 or 23. They always have it at 15, 18, 13, 12, 10. Oh, shoot. It's a 5-point game with 4 minutes left to go in the game. Like that's the type of game that we saw them foster. So and by the way, I did say Foster with the pun intended, because Scott Foster, buddy, pretty bad referee. But outside of that, what we saw this team do consistently is lean on their defense. And when it came down to that game four, the way that they switched everything, made them have to rely on isolation basketball, made them get away from what they do great. That's why they won game four. And then in game five, it was a barrage in many different ways, right? Aaron Wiggins hitting threes. Alex Caruso, I think he shot 1 for 8. Didn't even have a great game offensively, but defensively, getting to it, getting after it, diving on loose balls, showing his value, outplaying his contract, showing you exactly why OKC won the trade that a lot of people, for some reason, wanted to flip on and say, oh, the Bulls won the trade because Josh Giddey was having a great close to his regular season. No. At the highest level, in terms of moving the needle, in terms of raising the ceiling, we saw what Alex Caruso was able to offer to this Oklahoma City team. We saw it all playoffs. We saw multiple games in this series as well. And then you have, again, Chet Holmgren, who's a guy that we haven't said much about yet. And I want to be honest, Chet's been probably the most impressive defender in the playoffs. And I know he has these times where it's like, Chet, offensively, what are you doing? It looks embarrassing. It doesn't look great. I hear all that. But make no mistake about it, Chet's defense has been disrupting everything the Pacers want to do. Because another part about that game four that no one talks about, down the stretch, Chet's switchability, where Tyrese was on the island trying to get to shots, airballing shots, Chet was forcing a lot of these plays. Hartenstein can't do that. We've seen Hartenstein get barbecued in those switches at times, right? Chet Holmgren has held up routinely. And then at the rim, in terms of his shot blocking and actual rim deterrence, Chet has provided an insane amount of value. Despite the fact that he was 4 for 15, didn't shoot the ball well at all. But to me, that just speaks to how much crazy of a player he can be, because before the injury in the regular season, his offense was going somewhere. It really, really was. And then he got hurt, missed a huge chunk of the season, had to come back midseason and regroup to find his balance on his team. But when I'm staring at this and I'm looking at this in a bubble, this is what OKC has to offer compared to the Pacers. Because Chet hasn't had that crazy offensive game yet. And Jalen Williams, for 3 straight games after having duds in game 1, duds in game 2, has stepped up and dominated them physically, where he's just brute force, getting to the rim, getting to the free throw line. Same thing can be said for Shea in his own unique way. And then the role players didn't show up on the road, fine, but they showed up at the crib, which is why there's such an importance for home court advantage. Role players play better at home. But that brings me to game 6. That brings me to the focus of this title of this stream here on YouTube and on Bleacher Report. Hello, guys. That's what this comes down to, game 6. Because all that being said, the Pacers are a phenomenal home team as well. The Pacers have not lost more than one game at home in these playoffs collectively, series by series. That at most they lose one game at home in a given series. The Pacers play better at home. They feed off the crowd. They feed off of that energy. We also saw just how close that game 4 was that they lost. It was up in the air. So when we're evaluating basketball, when we're looking at these situations, we're really staring at things in the face. This is a winnable game for the Pacers. The Pacers can absolutely take a game here at Gainesbridge. They 100% can. But what it's going to come down to beyond that is going to come down to the health and the play of Tyrese Halliburton. Now, I know that's not some big brain take or theory, but bear with me. That matters so much at such a heightened level to me because specifically Tyrese Halliburton, when he plays well, he's running the floor. He's making quick passes. He's processing. He's just getting things going. He's making drives. He's collapsing the defense. That is his value. When he's not doing that and the Pacers have to figure things out, they take tougher shots. And what happens when you take tougher shots in the playoffs against the best defense in the league, a all-time defense, period? You lose because you have less shot quality. You're more prone to turnovers. Your team chemistry isn't where it should be to win, and you struggle. So when I'm looking at game 6, what we have to ask ourselves is, if Tyrese is cooked, which, by the way, he has a calf strain, and I was telling people in the game he got hurt, it don't look the same. He trying to play through it, but he might have to play through this. And in my opinion, as drastic as this might sound, because I know this is the NBA Finals for a lot of these guys, they played their share of 82 games to get to this point. This is the highest pinnacle in basketball in terms of a team sport and where you want to go. You want to make it to the NBA Finals. This comes down to, what do you want your career to be? Because as much as I like Tyrese Halliburton, I do not believe he should play. Now, I know a lot of you are going to disagree. A lot of you are not going to feel the same way in terms of should he give it up or not. I hear that. I feel that. I respect that. But to me, if he has a calf strain, I don't care if it's a grade 0.5. He shouldn't play. Because I've seen this story happen with Kevin Durant. I've seen this story happen with James Harden, even though that was a hamstring. So that's a different type of injury. If Tyrese is naturally going to be passive and not assert himself with shots, if he's naturally going to play like that, I do not believe that he should play. Because if he's hurt, he's not going to be confident on that. And OKC's defense is nothing to, they're pressing him. Lou Dort is stopping so many different possessions defensively. Alex Caruso getting after it as well defensively. It's going to be hard for him to consistently go against his defense and keep up with their physicality if he's hurt. And if I'm being honest, TJ Nash, that's right. I'm calling TJ McConnell TJ Nash because that's how much he was hooping. If TJ Nash is going to give me 17 points and play phenomenal, really control the game, well, I know he needs help, but that's where you have to rely on the Pacers to have other players step up. Andrew Nembhard has been a hit or miss player, and a lot of people are going to be like, oh, what? I thought he's really good. Nembhard's really been up and down, really for 2 series now, because his defense showed up more in this series. It showed up more against Jalen Brunson, but offensively, he's been mad and consistent. And if we're talking about game 5, if we're being honest about game 5 as well, his offensive process on the stretch wasn't good either. The turnovers, the decision-making, the lack of shots falling, they need to get 20 out of Andrew Nembhard, in my opinion, if they want to take home game 5. Andrew Nembhard has to have a standout game for them to win. And I really feel like everyone else in terms of Miles Turner, Pascal Siakam, especially Benedict Mathurin, all these guys have to play at a high level at home to win. I actually think there's a mild possibility for them to beat them without Tyrese Halliburton, just based on the variance of the entire team swinging the right way for them. But again, that's a variance thing. Because just as much as you can hit shots at home, you can also brick the shit out of shots. So to me, it's like this isn't resolved. There's a lot of question marks that we have in terms of where things are going to outright concretely go. But if you ask me who the biggest X factors are in this game on the road, to me, Chet's defense, Andrew Nembhard's offensive looks, Pascal Siakam's ability to take over the game in the fourth quarter, and TJ McConnell's pace. These are the things that will swing the game the most, either for the Oklahoma City Thunder or the Indiana Pacers. So I can't wait to see it. I want to see what happens when OKC winds up switching more. I want to see how they're going to mess with the lineups for the Pacers side of things. I truly just don't believe that Tyrese Halliburton plays in this next game. I think it might be too serious. And if he does, he cannot afford to play timid. He's got to go out there and get to it. If he got to take hella shots just to play the game, then do that. If your prerogative is you have to play. I don't think he should. I think you sit him down. I think he finds his rhythm after the fact and the rest, and you just have to hope that you can steal a game at home without Tyrese. Because you don't want to send Tyrese into the next season hurt. There's more to play for, right? This Eastern Conference they just got through, if we're evaluating it, let's talk about it, right? The Bucks are cooked, right? Dame is gone. Unless the Bucks have some crazy swing trade, which I don't think really happen because they don't really have the picks to make a big swing trade happen. They don't have the players that are appealing enough to make a star trade happen. I just don't see that. I think the Bucks are cooked, at least for this upcoming season, me personally. When you look at the Philadelphia 76ers, they're a team that have not been healthy routinely. Joel Embiid, Paul George, we don't know how that looks in Philadelphia. They are a question mark team. The Boston Celtics are going to still be good. But Tatum is gone for the entire year, tore his Achilles. So to me, when I'm looking at that team as well, they're not going to be the same higher echelon team either. The Pacers can beat all of these teams. As long as they have a healthy Tyrese Halliburton and they get some player progression to occur for players on this roster, I see no reason why the Pacers cannot wind up in the same position next year. Now, is it going to be a banked on thing to rely on them going back to the finals? No, I probably wouldn't bank on it, but they're good. Like, they're genuinely a good team. So you don't want to mess it up by letting your star player who runs everything for you get hurt and then not be the same for the entire season next year. No, your goal is to maximize the window. So I'm always on the side of, if you have a player in a do or die situation whose game is already predicated on getting others involved more than getting to his own shot, and you send him into a game against one of the most physical defenses in the NBA, the best defense in the NBA, who's already been giving him issues in the series as is, that could be malpractice to me. It could. So I don't want to see that. I don't. So I'm hoping the Pacers can find a way to figure things out. I'm hoping that there's some type of adjustments that they can make to outmatch OKC. But if I'm being honest, I have OKC. And this isn't new information. I had OKC going to the finals and winning in preseason. OKC was my 2025 championship pick. Some people had Boston. I get it. But I just feel like OKC was the better team. And we're at a position now where OKC in this series has looked like the better team. It might be some margins, sure, but there's margins in every playoff series. I just think the level of play that we've seen, they've dominated them in the series more than the Pacers have. And I had OKC in 6. I had OKC winning a game on the road and at home in the series. I did. They've done that. They won 2 games at home. I think they can beat them in this game. So I'm leaning OKC in 6 games. I'm going to stick to my guns. But trust me, Chad. Trust me. I definitely want more than this 6-game series. I would love to see a 7-game series between both of these teams. I would love to see that. I would love to see a game 7 where OKC does not close it out in game 6. They blow it. Comes down to a game 7. in the NBA Finals. We have not seen a Game 7 for a minute, over a decade, I'm pretty sure, in these finals. So to me, like I really want to see the pressure come out to see what OKC is made of. We've seen them win a Game 7 at home before. We have seen that in these playoffs. But to me, a finals Game 7 is a different feeling. With a championship on the line, all the pressure's on you. There's no pressure on the Pacers because no one expected the Pacers to be in this position. I would love to see the pressure that puts them through en route to a championship, to a title. I would love to see that. So those are my thoughts on that. I think this has been a great NBA Finals. I know a lot of people are apparently mad about how it's going, this and that. To me, those people don't love basketball. We ignore those people. I love basketball. I love the Warriors, obviously. There's a lot of things we have to change to get back to the same level that OKC and the Pacers are on. But I don't need them to be playing to appreciate basketball. I don't. I love basketball first. That's who I am. That's what I do. I do this like I live and breathe this basketball stuff all day long, all week long, all summer long, everything. So we're not even slowing down the content. We're actually going to be increasing it in this offseason. That's Gifted Hoops, baby. That's what I do. But pivoting away from the finals, we have like 9 minutes pretty much in the stream. I want to now pivot to talks about trades. Kevin Durant, his legacy. What team is he going to? The Miami Heat. Like there is a lot to discuss, and I'm going to start with this. Hot take is going to make a lot of y'all mad, right? We need to, as a community, we need to ban the word untouchable, untradeable. Because the fact that the Spurs, allegedly, because this has been reported, but it could be a rumor. The fact that they're saying Jeremy Sohan is untradeable. We cannot trade Sohan. We cannot trade Vassell. And a trade for Kevin Durant is just so funny to me, bro. It is. Jeremy Sohan is a player that Popovich had playing point guard, and he was terrible. One of the worst players in the league. Now, he's better than that. I do think there's a good sense of versatility you get with him. But the fact that Kevin Durant has interest in coming to the Spurs, and they are being so picky about it where they don't want to trade someone. Again, I can understand the draft picks, right? I can understand not wanting to give away Dylan Harper. Of course, I get that for sure. 100%. But Sohan cannot be the reason why a trade doesn't happen. Now, the flip side of this is I also think that the Suns shouldn't expect a crazy amount back for Kevin Durant. I believe that too. Because when I'm looking at this full thing in a vacuum, KD's aging. KD's getting older. Let's have an uncomfortable truth about Kevin Durant. His impact as a player isn't as great as these other players anymore. And I'm sorry, but I have to go back to this. When Steph Curry on the Golden State Warriors did not make it to the play-in, the general conversations were questioning how good is Steph? How good is his impact? Is he really that good of a player anymore? Luka better, Shea better, all this and all. Like, these were the talks that were happening. And then Klay comes back. They win the title. Steph has one of the most masterful performances against the best defense in the league at the time outside of them, because they were also a very good defense. They win the championship straight away. But the talks and questions about his legacy, this and that, shoot, even this year against the Rockets in the first round, chat, even this year against the Rockets, they were questioning, oh my God, look at Steph Curry. He's going to blow another 3-1 lead. Oh my God. Oh my God. Like, these were the talks. But when it's Kevin Durant, it's, oh my God, we love the 7-foot assassin. Oh my God, he's such a great player. He's so versatile. He can do X, Y, or Z. And we don't send the proper criticism that should come his way. I've seen LeBron James get killed for not making the playoffs with Lonzo in them. Now, I'm not trying to go narrative for narrative. I'm just saying, to me, Kevin Durant seems to be Teflon from those conversations. And this is yet another situation where he left OKC to go to Golden State, won titles, didn't want to be there anymore, wanted to do his own thing in Brooklyn. Backs Kyrie Irving on not needing the head coach, saying, I'm a coach, you're a coach. It's a partnership, not actually like giving him the sole respect of being a coach. The coach gets axed. They get James Harden, play good basketball. Injuries happen, right? COVID mandate happens. I get it. That's out of his control. Fine. But that doesn't pan out. Has a great playoff series, by the way. I give it a ton of respect versus the Bucks. Yes. Then you have the Kyrie can't play drama, the hardest stuff. Harden gets traded for Ben Simmons, who don't play. They walk into another playoff series where they play the Boston Celtics first round. I remember the convos about this were hilarious. Some people said Boston is a better team. They're going to beat them. Many other people said it's Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving. I'm not picking against them in a series. KD is going to average 35 and rah-da-rah, woo-da-roo, and oh my God, Kyrie going to do X, Y, or Z. And then we get into the series, KD plays awful game one. Then what the talks are is, there's no way he does that again. There's no way Kevin Wayne Durant does that again. Does it again. Goes to the post-game press conference saying, I don't know what's happening. The defense is swarming. I'm getting confused, all this and all that. They get swept, losing 4. Then next season, KD and Kyrie are hooping. Then we have the off the court thing with Kyrie that takes place. Kyrie gets traded. Then KD follows suit. He gets traded to the Suns. Unfortunately, he gets hurt immediately. Slips on something in warmups. Doesn't play for the rest of the season until it's like 3 games left. Comes back, plays on a fractured Suns team that wasn't the same after trading 2 of their best wings to go get Kevin Durant. They lose versus Denver. You want to know what happens next? Kevin Durant backs up Devin Booker on the Suns acquiring Bradley Beal. There's edits and photoshops of how unstoppable this team is going to be. Devin Booker comes out himself and says, hey, you know what? We're going to be unstoppable. How are they going to guard me, Kevin Durant, and Bradley Beal? These are the conversations that are occurring. It's what we're seeing. So then we shift from that to the Wolves series. And guess what happens? Booker is not a point guard. He can't bring the ball up without getting pressured and blitzed by Nickeil Alexander-Walker and Jaden McDaniels. Kevin Durant averages 27, but I swear to you, they were living with these shots. It wasn't the crazy level of impact we're used to seeing from Kevin Durant. It was. And he played well by the numbers in the series. But again, scheme-wise, they were living. It wasn't enough because they knew that we're going to get easier shots. You're going to have harder shots to shoot. And more importantly, the twos aren't going to beat us. We're going to take more threes. Number-wise, we're going to beat you guys. That's exactly what happened in the series. Word for word, bar for bar. And their defense was getting flambéed. It was atrocious. So now Kevin is in another situation where he's forcing his way out. The Suns are going to acquiesce to his demands and probably send him to where he wants to go to. But now his legacy is going to be looked at in a microscope and saying, well, damn, you were only able to really contend on one team that wasn't the Warriors. And that was really OKC. It wasn't Brooklyn. It certainly wasn't Phoenix. So the next team he goes to me has to be a serious team. And I actually like the Spurs because I think the Spurs have assets. I think the Spurs are a younger team. More importantly, we've never seen Kevin Durant go to a team where the star player's in the front court, right? The star player plays lockdown defense, one of the best defensive players in the league. And more importantly, Kevin Durant can actually instill his skills and knowledge to that player because they play kind of similar, at least in a vacuum. So not sure where he's going to go. I do think this trade happens before the NBA draft. I'm going to keep my eyes on that. We will be discussing this more in depth on a future episode of the pod, but got to get up out of here. I will have a video on the main channel tomorrow breaking down the series for the Pacers and Oklahoma City, at least for Game 6, more specifically tomorrow. So make sure to tap in there. But appreciate everyone. From now on, we're doing these live streams on Bleacher Report and YouTube. So make sure to tap in every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 8 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. Appreciate you guys. Salute. Have a great one. Appreciate all the support. We up out here. Peace, chat.